For my final project, I decided to take a deeper look into organic foods. Growing up with a mom who has always bought organic has influenced the ways in which I shop for groceries by myself, so I wanted to take the time to understand what organic foods really are and how they differ from conventional foods in a variety of ways, from both the producer and consumer standpoint. Prior to starting my research, I asked some people some questions to get a general idea of what others thought or knew about organic foods. I asked them questions like, what do you think organic means? What role do organic foods play in your diet? And do you think organic foods are better than conventional foods? Here's what they said.
When asked to think about what organic foods mean to me, what immediately comes to mind is all natural, no preservatives, no artificial anything. It's the fruit or veggie that comes off the tree, they package it, you buy it, that sort of thing. Super healthy. Organic foods don't really play a role in my diet because we live a pretty busy lifestyle and they're expensive, and I know because they're natural they tend to go bad faster, like a fruit or veggie might get ripe faster or whatever, so we don't buy them at my house. I would like to buy them. I think natural foods are way better than foods with tons of preservatives, even though they last longer. It's something that I would be interested in.
When I think of organic, I think of going to a special section in the grocery store and paying a little bit more money for food, but it usually ends up being better for you. Organic foods used to have a bigger role in my diet, but then I moved out of the house and my mom was no longer buying natural crunchy peanut butter or natural pasta. So although I do still have it from time to time, it just nearly isn't as often because I don't have it around as much. Organic food is better than conventional food.
It's coming from a farmer who doesn't use any pesticides, GMOs, kind of all natural products, and the way they treat their animals and food items are handled kind of more with care and roaming free rather than almost like cage free as well. I think it plays an important role in my diet because I do look for the organic symbol, as I like to think that it is coming from a farmer who, like I said before, is treating their animals cage free, no pesticides, GMOs, chemical type stuff is gone. And compared to conventional foods, I would pick that. I would pick an organic item over a conventional item. I guess I should probably do more research on organic foods because I don't have a good reason of why I would pick one other than this idea behind why I think one is better than the other.
When thinking about what organic means to me, I would say that, the idea is that organic would be free of pesticides and chemicals. And unfortunately, what has happened is that there isn't a real guarantee that everything that's claimed to be organic and the USDA certification of organic really means that it's free of chemicals and pesticides. But I always try to buy organic because the idea is that it's not, you don't have those chemicals, you don't have those pesticides on it. And I think that if you can try to buy organics from smaller local farms that you maybe even know about, or especially when it comes to, it's not only with produce. It applies to pretty much everything now. In meats and even grains and fruits. And so, yeah, that's what it means to me. Try to find, foods that are free of chemicals.
Dennis is my name. When I think of organic food, I think of food that you feel more satisfied as it goes throughout your body. Even though it costs a little more, at the end of the day, it's probably worth it because it's all in good health. It also reminds me of Brenna Amundsen's mom because she's always loving organic foods and she's always providing organic foods for her children because that's, what she likes best.
What does organic produce mean to me? On the top of my head, I like to think that it means healthier, more natural, not full of different chemicals or pesticides. But I also know from having done some research that the labeling can be misleading. For myself, though, I do feel like, to me, the definition of organic is that it's smaller grown, smaller farms. People are maybe using animals or different time-tested strategies to grow the crops and using less pesticides. Now, I don't actually know if that's true or not, but that's what I would like to believe.
The other day I was at Target where I overheard an older lady talking to what presumably was her granddaughter. They were looking at the bananas and the younger woman said, "We have normal bananas in the cart, but do you want organic bananas instead?" The older lady then asked, "What's that mean? What's organic?" The younger lady responded, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary Online, the definition of organic pertaining to growing and farming is of, relating to, yielding, or involving the use of food produced with the use of feed or fertilizer of plant or animal origin without employment of chemically formulated fertilizers, growth stimulants, antibiotics, or pesticides. In a broad sense, organic is just another way of referring to how agricultural products are grown and processed by the farmer. According to Mayo Clinic, some of the goals of organic farming include enhancing soil and water quality, reducing pollution, providing safe and healthy livestock habits, enabling natural livestock behavior, and promoting a self-sustaining cycle of resources on a farm. Like the women at Target, when people think of something being organic, they think of it in a sense that it's just healthier for you, when really the bigger picture focuses on the agricultural side of things. In order for a food to be considered as organic, it needs to be USDA certified. If it is certified, then the producer of the food can use a USDA organic food label if they sell more than $5,000 a year in organic foods. When it comes to organic labels, there's 4 different types of labels depending on how much of the food is organic. A food can be labeled 100% organic if it is completely organic. This is most commonly found for single ingredient foods like fruits, vegetables, meat, and eggs, but it can also be found on multi-ingredient foods if all the ingredients are organic. The next label is organic. This is for multi-ingredient foods where at least 95% of the ingredients are organic. The remaining non-organic ingredients must be approved by the USDA. Another label commonly seen on foods is made with organic. These multi-ingredient foods have at least 70% of organic ingredients that are listed as organic in the ingredient list. The 4th label that can be seen is organic ingredients. Foods with these labels cannot be labeled as organic because less than 70% of the ingredients are organic, but they can still list out which ingredients are organic. At the store, when it comes to buying your food, there's often a debate on whether you go with the more expensive organic choice or you go with the less expensive conventional choice. So, it's important to know how big of a difference there is between the two choices. Like mentioned earlier, one of the greatest focuses of organic foods is the agricultural production of them. The greatest difference between organic and conventional foods is likely seen in the crop growing practices. In conventional crops, chemical fertilizers are added for growth, insecticides are sprayed for pests, and chemical herbicides are applied to avoid weeds. As a result of these practices, the pesticide residue often remains on the foods. There are a couple of reasons for these practices. One is for convenience. Because of the high demand, farmers and companies are attempting to grow the greatest amount of the crop that they can. Conventional farmers strive for lesser costs with higher gains. Because of the high supply, it is too much work for the farmer to go in and do everything by hand. Another reason for conventional practices is that fertilizers increase the size and amount of the crop. In a society where the bigger something is, the better it is, companies strive to have the largest crops they can. In order to avoid these growing practices, organic farms use natural fertilizers consisting of composting and green manure. No sewage sludge, genetic engineering, or radiation is done on the crops either. They also use predatory insects and birds as well as traps to keep the pests to a minimum. Finally, instead of using herbicides, plant rotation is a technique often used, and hand tilling is another way that weeds are avoided. Another producer perspective when it comes to organic versus conventional food is the animal farming practices. One of the major differences between the two is the use of antibiotics, growth hormones, and medications that are given to the animals. In organic farming, animals do not receive injections of antibiotics or hormones, whereas in a conventional setting they do. This is for a variety of reasons. One is because the growth hormones help the animals get as large as possible in a shorter amount of time. Antibiotics and medications are also necessary because of the living conditions. Because of the mass production and demands for livestock as a food source, the conditions that the animals are living in are not always the best. These conditions often consist of the greatest amount of animals that can fit in one space with little to no room to move. When it comes to organic farming practices, in order to be USDA certified, there needs to be healthy living conditions with access to the outdoors. Organic food is given to the animals as well as pasture feeding, and vaccinations are given when needed. On the consumer side of things, looks and taste are extremely important in the eating experience. For this consumer perspective, I decided to do a mini experiment and compare an organic banana to a conventional banana. From initial observation, there was no difference on the outside of the banana that gave away that one was organic and one wasn't. When I took the peel off, there was also no difference in looks. I also observed this lack of different appearance with a few other fruits and vegetables at the grocery store. When it came down to the taste test, I also did not notice a difference. The bananas tasted exactly the same. While part of this can be personal preference, many studies I have found talked about participants not being able to tell the difference in looks or taste of organic foods. In some cases, conventional foods can appear larger or more perfect shaped due to GMOs, and an increase in pesticides can sometimes also change the flavor. An article published by National Geographic talked about how organically grown foods are also found to have greater antioxidant levels. The British Journal of Nutrition study was done, and they found that organic crops can have anywhere from 18 to 69% higher concentrations of antioxidant compounds. Further research has found that greater levels of antioxidants can alter the taste, aroma, and mouthfeel of foods, so that is important to consider even though it wasn't the case in my observations. Another thing that has been mentioned in terms of organic foods is the cost of it. Organic food is known to be priced as more expensive due to more spendy farming practices as well as a higher demand. As seen in the graph from a Star Tribune article, organic sales have continued to rise since 2007, and they now make up more than 5% of total U.S. food sales. Another thing to consider with cost is availability. Many times in stores, you can find more of a variety for less money for conventional foods, whereas the specifics in organics can sometimes be harder to come by. When it comes to consumer benefits, it was actually a lot harder to find reasons why organic foods are better than conventional foods than one would assume. Many of the studies and websites that I found talked about how organic and conventional foods have similar nutrient content in the big picture of things, and one even suggested that eating an extra apple a day with a conventional diet would be similar to a completely organic diet in terms of nutrients. What I found for benefits that conventional crops have is that they are able to last longer in some cases due to their processing. What I found for organic benefits is that it is possible that there is a small increase in nutritional benefits in some areas, especially because of the lack of pesticide residue. One area that has higher benefits is higher omega-3 fatty acid levels found in organic meats, eggs, and dairy products. Like mentioned before, some studies have also shown a greater antioxidant concentration. One other thing found interesting was that while conventional grains have higher cadmium levels than organic grains, there are higher cadmium levels in organic fruits and vegetables than conventional fruits and vegetables. Both organic and conventional foods have similar bacterial resistance. So, overall, in terms of health benefits in organic versus conventional foods, there isn't that much of a difference. Now that we know the differences between conventional versus organic foods in a variety of ways, we have to consider, is it worth it? To conclude this presentation, I'll look at organic foods in relation to different topics of this course and provide a brief overview of if organic foods are worth it. In regards to this class, organic foods relate to the material we have talked about in this course in a variety of ways. We started off the semester by looking at nutrient composition. This doesn't have much direct correlation on organic foods because while they have the same initial nutrient composition, conventional versus organic foods differ at the growing process and by what is sprayed on or injected into the food to change the product. We also looked at eggs, grains, and dairy in recipes. In terms of organic with these foods, whether something is organic or not would not change how a recipe is going to turn out. In week 4, we looked at fermentation, and in terms of organic, it depends on what type of fermented food you're looking at. In many cases, producers choose to use organic foods to create their fermented product because of the simplicity and lack of processing done to the original food, but it isn't always the case that a fermented food is organic. One other area we explored in this course that relates to organic foods is the sensory experience. Here we talked about how touch, taste, look, and smell affect the eating experience. While some think that organic foods don't differ from conventional foods in any ways, it really just comes down to personal preference. When choosing if you should go with organic or not, it's all about personal preference. There's no claims whether or not organic food is healthier or safer. Organic differs from conventional food in the way that it is grown, handled, and processed. As we have seen, there isn't that much of a difference or none at all when considering the health benefits to organic foods. There also isn't always an appearance or taste difference, so is the extra money worth it? Well, it's up to you. Some choose to go the organic route because of the agricultural perspective. By buying organic, you are supporting the movement to help the environment by reducing pollution while conserving soil and water quality. Overall, it's your money and your choice on what you want to fuel your body with.